Hello again everyone, this is Natsu. If you have ever lived overseas, I'm pretty sure there is a dilemma you relate to. It doesn't matter which country you live in, but there are always things you feel comfortable with. It could be the systems, the values, or the way people interact. And then at some point you go back to Japan, right? It might be temporary, permanent, it doesn't matter to be honest. Either way, a question pops up. Should I bring this culture with me or should I not? In this video, I want to talk about some stuff from a perspective of being away from Japan for a while. And some people might say I'm someone being influenced by overseas culture too much, which is often called 海外かぶれ. Am I one of those people? I don't know, you judge. Anyhow, what I can say is I'm Japanese and I have spent 1/3 of my life overseas. I want to share what I have learned, not as an answer, but as a reflection. As always, if you have got any questions, comments, please let me know. I would love to hear what you have to say. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, you're more than welcome to as well. Alright, let's get right into it. Okay, so now I have to say, I feel like I exist in between. I'm officially an in-betweener. To be honest, I love my life. So I don't really feel bad about like how I've spent my 20s. And then it doesn't have to be like 10 years or anything like that. But if you have experienced a working holiday or studied abroad or moved overseas for work or family reasons, or even like grown interested in other cultures, I mean, learning English possibly. I feel like there's this annoying Japanese word that tends to come along with us, which is 海外かぶれ. People say, oh, don't act like that, stop talking about the country you have lived in. So here's where a little dilemma starts. You get to see some differences between Japanese culture and some other cultures, but you have to live as a Japanese person in Japan or could be in a Japanese community overseas. Oh, Japan is a little bit suffocating in this way, but at the same time we often say, oh, I'm proud to be Japanese. Someone, especially someone from other countries, complains about or dismisses Japan, we instantly get defensive, upset, right? It's fair enough though. But the thing is, you know what you didn't know before. I sometimes feel like probably it's better to, for example, live in a small town and you don't watch TV and you don't check social media, you don't understand what's happening outside of your town, so you really can't compare yourself, your life to others. There's a saying, ignorance is bliss, and I think it's kind of true. In my case, in one office I worked at in Australia, when it was about time to finish work, people naturally started packing their bags. And at 5 o'clock, everyone, like every single person clocked out. And then by 5:05, I would say, nobody was left in the office. And at the time, I didn't even doubt it. Like it felt so natural to me. Obviously I enjoyed it. However, if I imagine myself doing the exact same thing in Japan, I don't think I can do it. If other people are doing it, yeah, I might do it. But the thing is, when it comes to this work culture, we all know that it's a bit too much in Japan. Of course, not at every single company, but it's getting old. We all know that. But the thing is, we really can't confront it. And the reason being is not only by peer pressure or like, oh, because it's hard to change the system, but also we sort of believe in our culture, don't we? We kind of feel like, well, there should be some reasons behind it. We don't like it, but I think it's working in some way. It might be difficult to think about work culture because it's quite complicated, but think about other areas of your life, like communication, interpersonal relationships, or like family, tradition, or what else, like manners and all that stuff. Because I'm a person who shares English learning, I always think about, what's the difference between Japanese culture and English culture. And then I often said in my videos like, hey guys, have your own opinions even in your mother language. Because essentially what you're going to do in English is like carry your ideas with English, right? But I have to confess that I always had a bit of sting inside me when I said that to you guys, because I know that cannot be a black or white sort of advice. In Japan, expressing your opinions is, I would say it requires a lot of like sensitivity to the people around you. So having your own opinions, it's fantastic. And being active in a conversation, that's amazing too. However, in Japan, it's not the same game, right? Sometimes we leave stuff unsaid on purpose, because that's where our like care shines, don't you think? That's when we start like trusting each other. Like, hey, you know what I'm trying to say, so we don't say it, right? When you think about it, like how beautiful is that? And I'm pretty sure we are proud of that culture. Well, I love Japan, but at the same time, I feel a bit complicated some aspects of Japanese culture. I think we all have sort of maneuvered well so far, depending on which country you're in or like who you're hanging out with. But you always carry this confusion, a bit of confusion inside you. And then I started wondering like, what is good? What is good and bad in culture anyway? And then recently I started thinking about this question. Is Japan really behind as I hear on social media? I don't know, it might be the algorithm or something like that, but I often hear people talking about like, hey, this is behind in Japan. Hey, this is progressive in Japan or something like that. And I often hear the words, Japan is behind, so we have to change it. And then I felt like uncomfortable or more like unsettling about it. But I couldn't really explain why or couldn't have any like rebuttal to the opinion because I was like, behind from who? Or like, who is progressive? Who is doing better? And most of all, what is right in culture? Sorry, I'm a book nerd, so I love this book. If you're interested in history, Sapiens Zenshi, amazing book. I also love Kirawareru Yuki. I always tell you guys. And also I learned so many things from Kane Ramsey. He's my psychology lecturer. Here's one thing that I want to share with you guys. And some people may already know. So culture is the accumulation of what people believe. So culture is what people believe is right or like feels normal or is considered important. So culture is not necessarily a fact. A fact is something that exists before, how can I say, like an interpretation or our feelings. Like pure water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Well, if you put it more precisely, under 1 atmosphere of pressure. But beliefs can change easily, so easily. And when you're not convinced yet, look at the history. Like, let's say 300 or 400 years ago, you look at them and go like, wow, they were so ignorant. They didn't know this and that. Wow, they believed it was right. They thought they were doing the right thing. The most advanced thing in the world. And this is exactly the same with what we are doing right now. And another thing is, horrible things happen in history. Why did it happen? Well, because there was a group of people who believed it was the right thing to do. And of course, there must have been some people who were against it. And this is what we are doing right now too. Well, if you're not convinced yet, ask people in the future, let's say 100 years from now, they would go like, wow, people in 2026, they didn't know this and they believed it was the right thing to do. So this is how our culture is sort of moving forward, right? So, things that you believe right at the moment. We believe, yeah, this is right, but it can be wrong in the future. And look, like, I'm not like anti, society kind of person, but this is how we build culture. In the end, we all believe we are doing the right thing. This is fair enough. What we can do is we do our best with what we have got, right? This is what it is. It's not like right or wrong, just this is human history, right? But what we believe what is right or wrong can be very, very fragile. Like this is what we have to know. So since I learned this, I started like questioning what surrounds me. Like for example, systems or culture or what family taught me, what school taught me. Hey, this is right, this is wrong. You should do it, you shouldn't do it. And then I think that's part of the reason why I felt a bit uncomfortable with the argument because, well, in the end, it's hard to say what is right or wrong in culture. But what I'm getting sick of is I think people are trying to prove that they are right. Like, first of all, the conversation started from like, okay, what is good for Japan? We want a good change, but people go like, hey, I'm right because, I've been to this country and in this country, people were doing it. So in Japan, we should do it too. Well, I mean, that's great. But first of all, I'm not dismissing your experience, but I think it's hard to define like which culture is progressive. Yes, I want a good change in Japan, of course. And ironically, I think there is one thing missing from many, many arguments about culture. They're not saying what they think they're seeing, but what they're looking at is who is right or wrong. Now, I want to share more personal reflection. If you want to laugh at me, you can. And if you think I'm too naive, you can too. But in my defense, we have built so many systems and rules and all that, but still the world is in chaos. So I'm pretty sure there's a little room to let some fresh air in. Right. I already talked about the, self-righteous battles, right? People go like, hey, I've been to this country and I've seen that, so it's the right thing. Look, because I live overseas, I often see content about like life overseas or like life in Japan. And then I often come across the content talking about don'ts in Japan. And then I started thinking like, look, I go to Japan in June, so I might bump into that cute influencer. What should I say as a Japanese living overseas, like don'ts in Japan? And in one video, I saw one lady talking about don'ts in Japan, and then she said, look, we Japanese are shy, don't talk to us. In a sense, yes, that's true, but at the same time, I think it's not entirely true. As a Japanese person myself, yes, I feel a little bit uncomfortable when someone talks to me on the street, and I still can't reply to banters at work or something like that. But also know that there are so many Japanese people want to help foreigners. There are people who genuinely enjoy chatting with foreigners. So it's not like a black or white kind of thing, isn't it? So making a black or white kind of statement, like in case, okay, don't approach Japanese because we are all shy, it feels off to me, to be honest. And then since I get a fantasy of being interviewed by the influencer, and then I started thinking like, okay, I really have to think like what my answer is. And then I came across a beautiful quote from my favorite movie. When given the choice between being right or being kind, choose kind. And then now, of course, you can laugh at me. In many situations in life, it can apply in anything in life, to be honest. Once we focus on what's right or wrong, I think it ends up being in a mental battle, like fierce mental battle. And even if your initial aim was simply to have a constructive conversation, but then you go like, look, this is right in Japan, this is not right in Japan. That drive to prove who is right only hurts people, I think. And then look, another thing to consider is we can't make everyone happy. If we say A, hey, I like A, there should be some people who say like, hey, I like B. And also we make mistakes. Even like you might be the smartest person, you might be very careful, but still we make mistakes, right? But I know one truth, that is being kind. And it's not like because I like being kind, but the biggest benefit of being kind is it makes you humble, and humility helps you apologize and start from there. And of course, I'm not saying like, hey, being kind is, the best solution to anything, but I think when you make a choice, whether you're in Japan or overseas, you're less likely to regret the decision, don't you think? Because we are already confused and you don't know what is right or wrong anyway. But beyond that, there is something hiding there, but not many people are trying to see. So again, we feel like we are saying it, but I think we are actually not saying it. And from now on, I might get a bit of cringy, like extra cringy. So friendly disclaimer. It doesn't matter like it was in Japan or in Australia or in Vietnam or something like that. But the choice that I never regretted was always kindness. And that is, sorry if it's not a good example, but I think that is what John Lennon called Imagine. And Martin Luther King Jr. called Dream. And what Mother Teresa, sorry if I said it wrong, called Small Things. And MJ, my love, Michael Jackson called Love or Man in the Mirror. Look, I used to be the person who believed only in like status, rules, and laws, and proof, logic, and educational background, and all the stuff. But did they help me? Well, sometimes they did. But when it comes to culture, I mean, what people make and how people live, I think rules are not the most important thing. In the end, I think what we all want is not something like you can prove that it's right, if that makes sense. And when you think about it, I think it doesn't matter where you live, or it doesn't matter what you have seen, or it doesn't matter where you have lived. It also doesn't matter who you're talking to, because you know like what you're seeing and also what people actually want to see. So then you don't have to be called like 海外かぶれ or anything, because there are no borders. And of course, I tell you, it's not the best solution. I'm not going to say like, kindness cures everything, but at least when it comes to culture, I feel like I found a principle that helps me like choose my actions. And I hope this video helps you think about that. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Sorry, it was a long video, so I look a little bit tired, but I did my best. So if you enjoyed it, please let me know by clicking the like button. And if you've got any questions, comments, please let me know. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, you're more than welcome to as well. All right, I see you in the next video soon.